Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
The main villain of the Street Fighter series, Bison, leader of the Shadaloo terrorist organization, is a psychotic mastermind with plans of world domination and human control. In today's episode, insights about Bison's concept and design from his creators at Capcom, and some revealing facts you might not know about the tyrannical dictator himself, the origins of Bison. Welcome to the Street Fighterverse. Bison was designed by Akira Akiman Yasuda and Yuko Ikusan Nakayama. Both were very influential in the early stages of the Street Fighter game's development. Bison's concept and design were based on Washisaki, in which translated means Eagle Cape, a villain from the manga and anime Rikyo, created by Masahiko Takajo and Setsuya Saruwatari. Washisaki is one of the main antagonists in the series. He shares the same world domination vision as Bison. Another inspiration for Bison's creation is based on Yasunori Keto, the main antagonist of the Japanese film Tokyo, The Last Megapolis, which is also known as Teito Monogatari. Yasunori Keto is an evil sorcerer, wielding the power of several long-dead mystics, who wants to destroy Tokyo and cripple the Japanese Empire in order to fulfill a 2,000-year-old curse. Both Bison and Yasunori Keto look very similar and have supernatural abilities, which they use for evil. Bison's clothing consists of a red military uniform, with large shoulder plates, wristbands, and shin guards. The shin guards in Bison's uniform are based on the style of the Universal Wrestling Federation of Japan, used in the mid-1980s. On his peaked service cap, there is a skull insignia of his crime syndicate, known as the Shadaloo. Originally called Shadow Law, the Shadaloo is a very powerful and deadly criminal organization, managed by Bison, and is responsible for dealing biochemical engineering and arms within the Street Fighter universe. As the founder and leader of the Shadaloo, Bison uses as many illegal methods as possible to achieve his destructive and barbaric goals, ranging from drug trafficking to illegal human experimentation. His uniform resembles Japanese and Chinese imperial uniforms, with the color of the uniform being red. His uniform may also have influences on the uniforms worn by the SS officers from the Nazi Germany. The skull on Bison's visor and the first letter of the Shadaloo on his belt is shaped as a single Zig runa. The Zig runa symbolizes victory. It represents the sun. Bison wears a dark-colored cape in the Alpha series, where he appears with his original body. From Street Fighter II on, and in the Capcom vs. SNK series, he appears with a much slimmer body and removes his cape before battle. Bison has neatly cut black hair under his peaked cap, which he is almost never seen without. His eyes were originally red, both within and outside the irises, though the irises were still visible. After Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, they were changed to a complete ghastly white. His eyes will glow pink when his psycho power is glowing. In Street Fighter V, Bison's look has changed. Bison wears a trench coat over his outfit with the cape. His hair has also turned white, with the extensive use of his psycho power. The psycho power is Bison's source of evil, negative and psychotic energy. Psycho power has been described as the dark side of the soul power, a power demonstrated by Rose. The psycho power can be compared to the dark side of the Force in Star Wars, and Rose's soul power to the Force. The psycho power feeds off the fear, anger, and the hatred of others. This energy can also affect the skin, body, color, eyes, and hair of people, as shown in the case of Violent Ken and Bison. There isn't much known about the history of the psycho power and the users before the time of Shadaloo, including how Bison obtained the secrets of soul power's negative aspects, except that it is amplified by negative emotions such as hatred, and that to master it, one must purge all good and light within oneself. It is rumored that in the past, Bison's master was the only known person in the world who could manipulate it. It is also said that, before his death at the hands of Bison, he passed the power to only 3 students, Bison himself being one of them. And Bison has several moves in which he unleashes his psycho power. Those moves are his Psycho Crusher, Head Press, Psycho Inferno, and Double Knee Press. And Bison also uses his psycho power in a variety of weapons which are Psycho Drive. In the Street Fighter Alpha series, Shadaloo had created the Psycho Drive, a weapon that can be used to store psycho power for brainwashing people at the request of Bison himself. Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a satellite used by Shadaloo that is referred in various supplemental materials. Shadaloo uses Beelzebub to study Pandora. Beelzebub is also known to have orbital laser cannon capabilities, utilizing psycho power as a power source. Crystal Idol. In Street Fighter II V, the Crystal Idol seems to be energized by psycho power, and has a telepathic link to Bison's mind, as it can call out to him, allowing him to travel into a self-contained dimension, where every power that has existed beyond space-time is contained. And Bison is an archetypal villain, motivated by his own self-serving interests and lust for absolute power through world domination. He is a megalomaniacal and psychopathic dictator and terrorist, who seeks to rule the world with an iron fist, whilst also being universally regarded as the greatest and most powerful martial artist of all time, and will readily destroy anything or anyone who dares to stand between him and his goals. Possessing a vast ego and god complex, Bison is physically incapable of feeling empathy for others, and even takes pleasure in watching people suffer at his hands, never feeling a shed of regret or remorse for the numerous atrocities that he has committed. In many ways, Bison's characterization is comparable to the clinical diagnosis of a real-life psychopath. Bison's malevolence and sadism are reflected in his iconic smile, a very wide grin that exposes not just all the teeth, but even the gums. One of the most iconic actors that have portrayed M. Bison in movies was actor Raul Julia, famous for his quote in the Street Fighter the movie, "For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday." This perfectly cemented the attitude of Bison towards everything, feeling lack of compassion or remorse. Raul Julia perfectly embodied the part of M. Bison. We, the Street Fighter universe, want to give homage to this amazing Puerto Rican actor, Raul Rafael Julia. Thank you for the memories. M. Bison is the villain who is motivated by self-serving interests and the desire to dominate the world at all costs. Megalomaniacal and psychopathic, he seeks to rule the world with an iron fist, while also being universally regarded as one of history's greatest martial artists, with the willingness to destroy anything or anyone who stands in his way. The egotistical Bison has a vast god complex, but is unable to empathize with others, happy to see others suffer at his hands, and never feels any remorse for the numerous atrocities that he commits against others. The description given by Bison is comparable to that given by a real-life psychopath. His wide grin, one that exposes not just the teeth, but also the gums, is indicative of Bison's malevolent and sadistic disposition. His sense of humor is twisted, and he refers to himself in the third person occasionally, possibly to allay his own feelings of self-importance. His evil is greatly reflected in the look of his eyes. His eyes have no pupils, greatly reflecting the evilness inside of him. You might ask yourself, why Bison has white pupils? Well, it is said that anime characters who don't have pupils are typically evil, prone to trances, or are possessed. Characters who usually have pupils, but lose them temporarily, are usually possessed, unconscious, mentally preoccupied, or dead. The pupils are a simple and universal visual metaphor for a person's state of mind. Almost nothing is known about M. Bison's past prior to his appearances in the mainline games. His country of origin is also unknown. The only known details of his past is that he was at one point nothing more than a young martial artist like any other, but with overwhelming ambitions. He originally wielded soul power and passed down his knowledge onto Rose, who was his only disciple. However, in order to be the best in the world of martial arts, Bison murdered his own master before giving in to complete chaos. Bison's master was said to be the only known person in the world who could manipulate the evil power known as the psychopower at the time, and it is also said that, before his death, Bison's master passed the power to only 3 other students, Bison himself being one of them. Another version dictates that after killing his parents at a young age, the young Bison was found and raised by a tribe of nomadic gypsies. The leader of the tribe took Bison under her wing and trained him in the art of soul power, using one's soul as a tool. However, Bison discovered that the soul had 2 sides, one of good and one of evil, and purged all of the goodness from his soul. This created psychopower, an extremely destructive energy, with the good half of his soul manifesting as a woman named Rose. From that day on, Bison quickly built up his criminal empire, culminating in the formation of the evil organization, Shadaloo, a very powerful and deadly criminal organization that is responsible for dealing biochemical drugs and arms. Its base is located in the region of Thailand. Bison's motto is to rule his empire with an iron fist, characteristic of an evil dictator. In his operations, he has used satellites and technology to try and destroy cities across the world. One of those can be attributed to his loyal servant F.A.N.G and his Operations Change project. The 7 PSA, Psychopower Stratospheric Aircraft, nicknamed as the Black Moons, are a group of doomsday weapons controlled by Shadaloo. Black Moons are part of Operation Chains, which was planned by Shadaloo to cause chaos in order to increase Bison's psychopower. Each Black Moon requires a control key, shaped like a small piece of chess, to be activated in a control device in the Shadaloo headquarters, which will cause them to detonate and release a powerful electromagnetic pulse, disabling electronics in a wide area. They were set above the United States of America and other important countries from around the world. Other aspects of his evilness is his brainwashing. In Street Fighter II, Bison controlled Ken with his psychopower, brainwashing him in the process. After this event, Ken became very violent, which is why this version of Ken is affectionately known as Violent Ken. He was vulnerable to mind control because of Ken's jealousy over Ryu's fighting ability. As the outstanding individual that he is, Bison used this as an opportunity to imbue Ken with psychopower and turn him into a pawn for the Shadaloo. Ken luckily broke free later. Another of Bison's evil endeavors is his repeated attempts in capturing Ryu, with the purpose of using Ryu's body as a host's body, or brainwashing Ryu into becoming a soldier of the Shadaloo. Bison has even gotten on a semi-truck and tried to run over Ryu for the sake of being bluntly evil. One of the worst acts of Bison is the brainwashing and kidnapping of teenage girls, with the purpose of creating an elite group of personal assassins called the Dolls. His brainwashing at one point had such a hold over the dolls that if he were to die, so would they. The tragedy behind Cammy. When Cammy was first introduced into the series, she had a convenient case of amnesia, forgetting her origins. It was later revealed that she had worked alongside Bison as part of the Shadaloo dolls as an assassin for Bison, which brings me to my next point. All the murders Bison endured. One of them is that he killed the parents of Juri Han. Her father, a famous Korean lawyer, had a case against the Shadaloo. Finding their whereabouts, the Shadaloo killed them and almost killed Juri Han, as she survived a bullet through her eye socket. Another one is Bison and the Shadaloo stealing the Thunderfoot tribe lands and killing T-Hawk's father. A third one we can talk about is the killing of Giles' best friend and mentor, Charlie Nash. Charlie had caught up with Bison and been shot by an aircraft multiple times on his back, before falling down a cliff. Last but not least, we can speak about the death of Dorai, Chun-Li's father. As a young girl, Chun-Li's father attempted to protect her from Bison and his evil organization, only to be killed. It is said that the assassin sent to kill Chun-Li's father was Cammy White, while under the spell of Bison. Originally called Shadow Law, the Shadaloo Syndicate is a very powerful crime organization that expands around the world with its operations. It is responsible for dealing with deadly biochemical drugs and arms. They are the present danger for humanity within the realms in the Street Fighter universe. The Shadaloo Terrorist Organization is managed by the evil dictator Bison. Bison is an archetypal villain, motivated by his own self-serving interests and lust for absolute power, through world domination. He is a psychopathic dictator and terrorist who seeks to rule the world with an iron fist, while is also being universally regarded as the greatest and most powerful martial artist of all time, and will readily destroy anything or anyone who dares to stand between him and his shady goals. Possessing a vast ego and god complex, however, Bison is physically incapable of feeling empathy for others, and even takes pleasure in watching people suffer at his hands, never feeling a shred of regret or remorse for the numerous atrocities that he has committed. As the founder and leader of Shadaloo, Bison uses as many illegal methods as possible to achieve his destructive and barbaric goals, ranging from drug trafficking and arms dealing to terrorism and illegal human experimentation, and mental manipulation as well. As the head of Shadaloo, Bison has 3 of his highest minions that obey his every command. Balrog, the enforcer of Bison, a self-centered, hot-tempered, arrogant, and sadistic boxer, whose insatiable thirst for money and wealth led him to be one of Bison's right-hand men. Vega, Bison's personal assassin. Vega is vain, overconfident, and highly convinced of his own abilities, almost to the point of megalomania. He is also incredibly sadistic and takes great pleasure in seeing the ugly murdered, and preferably mutilated. He often has a stone-cold demeanor and does not show a wide range of emotions. His narcissism and disdain for anything lacking elegance causes him to clash with other Shadaloo members, such as Balrog, due to the latter's boorish nature. Sagat, former bodyguard of Bison. Sagat encompasses a stereotypical proud fighter personality, since he is very powerful and strong-willed, as well as hard-working. He is dedicated to the martial arts life in both body and spirit. According to various bios, his natural size drove him to become a powerful fighter. Sagat's uncommon physical appearance makes him menacing and downright unfriendly at first glance, which is true to a certain extent. Originally, Sagat was one of Bison's top enforcers, but left and excommunicated himself from Shadaloo and its activities after Bison tried to take advantage of his rivalry with Raul by corrupting the latter with psychopower. Which brings us to F.A.N.G. F.A.N.G is incredibly eccentric and flamboyant, his frequent mannerisms usually consisting of odd movement and poses, much to the bemusement of others. Regardless, he is also a cold elitist and acts very condescending towards others, an example being his interactions with his own fellow assassin Vega and boxing enforcer Balrog, both of whom he considers incompetent and foolish. He runs the administrative operations of Shadaloo, second in command. They form what is called the 4 Heavenly Kings inside the Shadaloo Organization. Capcom USA gave them the name Grand Masters in the release of Street Fighter II. The Shadaloo runs with multiple personnel that are in charge of different aspects of the organization. Senoh is one of the top scientists in Shadaloo, responsible for creating and displaying the first batch of new monitor cyborgs. Their mission was to record various fights that happened around the world. This would locate the strongest fighters for Bison to turn them into his slaves. They have been around since the first Street Fighter, where a cyborg watched Sagat and Raul battle in the final. Senoh plays a very similar role to Zoltar, Bison's top henchman in Street Fighter II V, since they play almost the same role. The dolls, or Bison elite guards, are teenage girls of around 16 years old, who were captured by Shadaloo and brainwashed to be Bison's assassins and bodyguards, as revealed by the story of the Udon Street Fighter comics. Cammy was a female clone of Bison. However, she was the same age and acted the same way as the others. The dolls are completely loyal to Bison and act and talk similarly to robots. They were high-ranking members in the Shadaloo, only lower than Bison and the other Grand Masters. The most noticeable dolls are Cammy, codename Killer Bee. Cammy White is a perfect clone of Bison's body in a femme fatale way, where she was a soulless doll in constant training, sent only to the deadliest and most difficult of missions. Julie, she was assigned to track down Cammy. She was kidnapped by Shadaloo and brainwashed into an assassin. Junie, she was assigned to track down Ryu. DiCapri, originally from Russia, DiCapri's appearance resembles Cammy with a black mask. Her face is burned on the left side. Except for Cammy, the dolls' names are based after the months of the year in their home country's language, which are Enero, Febrero, March, April, Satsuki, Santamu, Chiayu, Jianyu, and Noemblu. Other members of the Shadaloo are the Shadaloo soldiers. The low-ranked Shadaloo soldiers are the lowest soldier class in the Shadaloo, a thankless job given varying tasks. Low-ranked Shadaloo soldiers use a uniform with shoulder armor similar to Bison's and a hat. While on duty, low-ranked soldiers are required to put on a helmet for protection, which possesses a psychopower receiver that can temporarily make their body tougher. The mid-ranked Shadaloo soldiers are stronger than the low-ranked soldiers, being promoted after passing a test. They mainly work on base security and often accompany the 4 kings in the operations on foreign countries. The high-ranked Shadaloo soldiers are the elite of the Shadaloo soldiers, very few being able to overcome the challenges required to reach the rank. These red soldiers are able to use psycho power instead of only being strengthened by it, but only when receiving the power from Bison. The Bison Troopers or Bison Shock Troops are characters from the 1994 Street Fighter movie. Shadaloo medical soldiers are the medical staff of Shadaloo, working on the medical room on the second floor of the research facility. Although they are doctors who manage the health care of other members, they can fight quite well. The Health 3000 is a remotely controlled combat mech developed by Shadaloo. Other important staff are the research team, spy team, mechanic team, public relations, and cafeteria staff. To start with this video, I want to give you guys an insight of the two main new Shadaloo characters, Ed and Falk. Let's start with Ed. Ed was kidnapped by the evil organization Shadaloo at a young age and experimented to become a possible vessel for their leader, Bison. However, he was later rescued by Balrog, and the two formed a bond as they traveled together. Ed began to suffer from nightmares as he prematurely aged into a teenager, and a fortune teller warned him of difficult times ahead. After the fall of Shadaloo and the death of Bison, Ed and Balrog took refuge in New Zealand. However, Ed continued to be plagued by nightmares and was almost possessed by the spirit of Bison. He fought off the possession and left Balrog, fearing that he would eventually get hurt if they stayed together. Months later, Ed had grown into a muscular young adult and formed a new organization with logos similar to Shadaloo. He became the commander of this group and set out on his own path with several new companions by his side, which will go deeper forward in the video. During the events of A Shadow Falls, Ed helped Balrog take Zangief's control key, but it was later taken by Ibuki during the first infiltration of the Shadaloo base. After Bison's defeat by Ryu and the destruction of Shadaloo, Ed was seen walking away with Balrog, presumably continuing his own path. What is his involvement with Falk? Well, Falk was a weapon, a tool for Shadaloo's twisted schemes. Her days were spent in grueling training, pushing her body and mind to the brinks of exhaustion in order to achieve the perfection demanded by her cruel captors. But despite her tireless efforts, she could never escape the nightmares that haunted her every waking moment. Dreams of Bison, the monster who had created her, and the fear that one day she too would be consumed by the psycho power that flowed through her veins. It was in the depths of this despair that Ed appeared like a ray of hope amidst the darkness. He had come to rescue her, to save her from the endless torment that had become her life, and with his help, they fled from Shadaloo together, determined to find others like them who were also needed of help. As they journeyed together, Falk couldn't help but notice that Ed's movements were somewhat inefficient, as if he had never received proper training. Yet despite this, he had still managed to rescue her, and had proven himself to be a fierce and determined fighter. They eventually founded Neo Shadaloo. What is Neo Shadaloo? The remnants of Shadaloo has caused untold amounts of suffering to countless individuals, and the scars it had left behind were deep and enduring. Ed and Falk had both experienced firsthand the horrors of being used as pawns in the organization's twisted schemes, and they knew all too well the pain and trauma that Shadaloo had inflicted on so many. Determined to make the difference in the world and right the wrongs of their past, Ed and Falk founded Neo Shadaloo with a singular goal in mind: to find and help those who were victims of Shadaloo's depraved experiments. They were determined to seek out those who had been cast aside and left to suffer, offering them a safe haven and the chance to reclaim their lives. Their motivations were pure and selfless, and their passion for helping others burned brightly. They had no desire for power or conquest, no thirst for vengeance or retribution. Their sole focus was on easing the pain of those who had been wronged and on building a brighter future for all. And who are the members of Neo Shadaloo? Well, Bison divided his abilities into each member of Neo Shadaloo. Whether or not he knew he'd confront Ryu one day, or that he wants to continue fighting as a fighting king, even after death, is unknown. Ed inherited Bison's ability to eject psycho power. Falk inherited Bison's ability to inject psycho power into objects. Baba inherited Bison's wisdom and high intelligence. The unnamed member inherited Bison's ability to teleport. Let us explain psycho power and why Bison might still be a villain in the Street Fighter 6 saga. Let's start today's episode with the most known version of Bison and his basic version. Bison is an archetypal villain motivated by his own self-serving interests and lust for absolute power through world domination. He is a psychopathic dictator and terrorist who seeks to rule the world with an iron fist while also being universally regarded as the greatest and most powerful martial artist of all time, and will readily destroy anything or anyone who dares to stand between him and his shady goals. Possessing a vast ego and a god complex, Bison is physically incapable of feeling empathy for others, and even takes pleasure in watching people suffer at his hands, never feeling a shed of regret or remorse for the numerous atrocities that he has committed. In many ways, Bison's characterization is comparable to the clinical diagnosis of a real-life psychopath or sociopath. Bison's malevolence and sadism are reflected in his iconic smile, a very wide grin that exposes not just all of the teeth but even the gums as well. He occasionally refers to himself in the third person, possibly to emphasize his own sense of self-importance, and displays a twisted sense of humor, as well as a business before pleasure attitude. In the games, Bison fights with a self-taught style using the psycho power. His general attire consists of a red military uniform, with large silver shoulder plates, wristbands, and shin guards. On his peaked surface cap is a skull insignia of his crime syndicate known as Shadaloo. Bison 2, known as Vega 2 in Japan, first appearing as a non-playable boss in Street Fighter EX2, plus, before becoming playable in Street Fighter EX3 as a secret fighter. This is the form Bison has taken after fussing with his second body. In Street Fighter EX2 Plus, if certain conditions are met after defeating Bison, a second Bison surrounded by floating embers descends from above, merges with the defeated Bison, and then fights the player. The stage, which is a temple of ruins of some sort, changes to a black screen where streaks of energy rise from the ground, which is the same background used for meteor combos, as the battle takes place. In EX3, the requirements for reaching him have been made easier, along with the difficulty of facing him in battle, as he no longer has infinite SC energy, although he will still have a full meter right off the bat. He retains the variations of the Psycho Cannon, but can only charge them to regular size. Bison 2 also tends to be far more aggressive than his normal counterpart in all the titles he appears in, and makes frequent use of his teleporting ability. Shin Bison, also known as True Bison. This is the form Bison takes whilst going all out and utilizing his full potential. Shin Bison is very much similar to regular Bison in terms of appearance, except with a different palette for his skin and outfit. His uniform is white with turquoise shoulder pads and anklets, and he has a zombie-like purple skin tone. He is also physically larger than the normal Bison. Shin Bison can only be fought once the player has accumulated a high enough score, which can only be accomplished by means of acquiring numerous perfect victories, and by winning matches using a meteor combo, meteor tag combo, or a critical parade as often as possible. He is also unplayable unless third-party cheat devices are used, as he is quite unbalanced in terms of gameplay, and even has an unlimited amount of energy in his meter. In EX3, he is different from the regular Bison in Bison 2, in that his movements are faster, and his attacks have less delay in recovery time, and can be changed as if he was in a permanent Excel state. Super Bison is a powered-up version of Bison that appears in the arcade version of Street Fighter the movie, as the final boss in the game's secret tag team mode. He is fought in a nighttime version of the Temple Ruin stage. He cannot be selected unless cheats are used. Phantom Bison is a form Bison takes after his body is destroyed, his consciousness living on in an incorporeal form through psycho power. Phantom Bison looks nearly identical to Bison's appearance in his physical body, save for the fact that he is now a transparent shade of purple. Phantom Bison appears in the beginning of A Shadow Falls, in the form of an illusion fought by Nash upon reawakening. He uses a near-identical moveset to his playable counterpart. His Street Fighter V profile states that at the end of the story mode, after Bison's body was destroyed by Ryu, his consciousness remained, turning to an incorporeal form. Phantom Bison appears in Ed's character story. After the events of A Shadow Falls, Phantom Bison appears and haunts Ed, trying to take over his body. Ed fights the spirit and is victorious. It is unknown what happened to Phantom Bison afterwards. Phantom Bison also appeared as an opponent in Falk's character story.
Bison's dolls are completely loyal to him. They behave and talk like robots, following Bison's command. As members of Shadaloo, they were only below Bison's and other Grandmaster members, such as Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and F.A.N.G. In the beginning, the dolls could not survive if Bison died, for brainwashing corrupted them to such extent that they would have collapsed and died. Eventually, Cammy, the most popular doll, managed to break free from Bison's mind control, apparently with help from Dalsum, and did the same for the others too. They collectively attacked Bison when he appeared. As a clone of Bison, Cammy was told she and all the other dolls would die if he died. Cammy successfully resisted Bison's psychic probing, and rescued the dolls from his grip and the psycho drive. After leading the dolls out of Shadaloo's base, Cammy fell unconscious, in a state of amnesia along with the rest of them. Vega eventually found Cammy and brought her to the Delta Red headquarters. After some time, it was unknown if the other dolls survived, but a trailer for the OVA for Super Street Fighter 4 showed that they did. They were unconscious, being placed in capsules, and strapped to stretchers. After beating the dolls unconscious, Juri brought them to Seth for experiments. Seth stated that the dolls would be killed once they arrived at the spot. On board Juri's plane as it took off with the dolls, Cammy managed to fight Juri for a short period of time. The match was easily won by Juri and ended with her elbow knocking Cammy's wind out of her stomach, which caused Cammy to back up. In a fierce push, Juri-Han grabbed Juni's capsule and forced it towards Cammy. Despite her best efforts, Cammy was deflected by the capsule and fell from the plane with Juni in the snow. As a result, Cammy says she won't forgive Juri. In Super Street Fighter 4, Julie and Juni survive. However, they don't seem to regain their memories. Her amnesia is so bad that Julie turns into, as Rose puts it, an empty shell of a person, as she is incapable of speaking, laughing, or even crying. In the middle of nowhere, Julie finds herself staying with an elderly couple. Cammy and her pet cat watch over Juni in a hospital. DiCaprio is also alive in Ultra Street Fighter 4, although it is unclear whether she is controlled by Shadaloo or Sin. As revealed in Street Fighter V, F.A.N.G worked behind the scenes to provide the dolls with upgrades to improve their combat power and to link to psycho power. At the end of A Shadow Falls, the dolls are reunited once again, with the exception of Mars, who appears to sacrifice herself to defeat F.A.N.G. However, F.A.N.G was later shown to have survived, leaving Mars' fate uncertain. It is believed that the remnants of Seth's biological brain fused with the body of one of the dolls, specifically Doll Unit 0, resulting in him having a female body. It appears that Doll Unit 0 is an entirely artificial construct, in contrast to the other dolls. The most popular dolls are Cammy. The original Cammy White was a perfectly cloned copy of Bison's body, a soulless doll kept in constant training, sent only to the most dangerous and challenging missions. Her first appearance was in Super Street Fighter 2, The New Challengers. In their native languages, the dolls' names, except for Cammy, are taken from the months of the year. Julie is one of the 4 playable members of the dolls. She first appeared in Street Fighter Alpha 3 as a sub-boss alongside Juni in a dramatic battle on the arcade version prior to the fight against Bison, and was made a default playable character in the home versions. Cammy is being tracked down by Julie, and Ryu is being tracked down by Juni. Her name is July in German. Juni. In the arcade version of Alpha 3, Juni appears alongside Julie as a sub-boss. She became playable in the console ports, where she is assigned to track down Ryu, and her partner Julie is assigned to track down Cammy. Her name is June in German. DiCaprio, a native of Russia. DiCaprio is akin to Cammy, without the black mask. The left side of her face is burned. The claws of DiCaprio are shorter, and are located in both hands, similar to those of Vega in a hand-to-hand combat. Her name derives from the Russian word for December. Ultra Street Fighter 4 is her fighting game debut, and instead of using a claw, she uses psycho power infused daggers as a weapon. The other dolls' names are Enero, which is January, originally from Spain. She specializes in communication, carrying a microphone with her. Her hair is pink. Février, which is February, originally from France. She specializes in using firearms. Her hair is pink like Enero, but shorter in Alpha 3, orange in the Street Fighter 4 OVA, and brown in Street Fighter 5. Mars, which is March, originally from Germany. She specializes in information and recon, using her laptop. Her hair is purple. Aprile, which is April, originally from Italy. She specializes in skills as a medic. Her hair is red in Alpha 3 and Street Fighter 5. However, in the Super Street Fighter 4 OVA, it is pink. Satsuki, which is May, originally from Japan. She specializes in sword fighting. Her hair is brown. In the Udon comics, she was spotted and captured by Cammy. Recognizing Cammy by her former Shadaloo codename, Killer Bee. Santamu, which is August, originally from Ethiopia, initially Vietnam. She specializes in spear fighting and is accompanied by a golden lion tamarin monkey. Her name is derived from the Vietnamese word for August, Tang Tam. Her hair is black. However, in the Super Street Fighter 4 OVA, it seems more brown than black. Xiaoyu, which is September, originally from China. She specializes in using nunchaku. Her hair is black. She seemed to have either gained a mask or some sort of face paint in Street Fighter V. Tianyu, which is October, originally from China. She specializes in using a quarterstaff. Her hair is black and resembles Tongpu from Capcom's Strider series. Nuembelu, which is November, originally from Mexico. She specializes in fighting with twin hatchets. Her name was originally Little Eagle. and she was part of T-Hawk's Thunderfoot tribe. Her hair is brown.
It's really absurd to think that someone who has caused so much distress in the Street Fighter universe would have a master plan that would involve saving the planet and actually doing something beneficial for humanity. Even though this sounds absurd, we found a theory that a great fan of Street Fighter shares with everyone. As Stephen Main states, Bison's psycho power stems from the evil of the world. Negative emotions such as fear and anger fuel it, and in turn make the energy more powerful. The consequence of this is that it corrupts everything it touches, including its wielder. Something JP said in the trailer hints at Bison's intent. He was obsessed, you see, with finding an appropriate vessel for his power. Bison has had a hand creating many of the characters we see in the Street Fighter series, including Cammy, Ed, Falk, and Seth, and for being the catalyst of many other character stories such as Chun-Li, Guile, and Nekali. The thing is, we don't really know Bison's origins. We know how he became the villain he is today, rejecting the good part of his soul, which became Rose. What we don't know are his reasons for doing so, outside of he wanted all the power. In Street Fighter V, Rose stated she wanted to send a message to herself in the past, to stop the seed of evil from ever taking root. In other words, we could be seeing Bison's origins through Rose's eyes. What will I be seeing? If there's a power that is fueled by negative emotions, wouldn't there also be a power that is fueled by positive ones? Yes. However, this power would be just as bad as psycho power, as it too corrupts its wielder. It explains why its wielder would be seen as a positive force in the world. But like psycho power, its user wants more and more, turning their victims into mindless husks. If this is the case, then Bison's origin story wasn't him trying to destroy the world, he was trying to save it. He was obsessed with finding a vessel, because he knew he couldn't handle psycho power, and he had just enough humanity left in him to realize it. Bison became a villain through his own actions, his desire to save the planet from a bigger threat than him corrupted by the power he wielded. He knew about G from the beginning. He wanted to stop the world from falling to G, so he decided to take it over himself. It means that, even back then, G was always there. If we look into the character's guide of Bison for Street Fighter V, it states that, and I quote, "Bison is the leader of the evil organization Shadaloo, who plans on terrorizing the world with the mysterious Black Moon. With his psycho power at maximum, we are now seeing Bison in his absolute prime, but it seemed that his real motive is not to take over the world. What could it be?" There has been a lot of rumor about this character specifically, since it's highly suspected to be the new villain of the series. It appears that he is the most senior member of the 18 character cast. He wears a vest and slacks, a white ascot at his throat, long white hair, white beard, and a mustache to match his ensemble. He holds a cane, which maybe he can use to strike down opponents close at hand, much like Falk's staff Harmony, which is capable of channeling psycho power. This character has been rumored to wield the same power that Bison has used for many years, his infamous psycho power. To begin narrowing down the influence of psycho power, we need to understand its roots. Well, most know that psycho power is evil, negative, psychotic energy that feeds off of the fear, anger, and the hatred of others. Even though Oro states that psycho power is not inherently evil power, but rather an alternate form of surpassing one's limits, much like soul power and the Satsui no Hado, and that labeling it as one only makes it difficult to fully suppress its negative influence. This is demonstrated by Ed and Falk, who use psycho power for the sake of helping others. This energy also grants a powerful wielder like Bison the ability to be intangible, flight, float, teleport, use telekinesis, soul manipulation, and control the minds of other beings. On the Street Fighter II Complete file, it states that not much is known about the history of psycho power, and the users before the time of Shadaloo, including how Bison obtained the secrets of soul power's negative aspects, except that it is amplified by negative emotions such as hatred, and that to master it one must purge all good and light within oneself. Now this is where it gets interesting. In the Street Fighter World Warrior Encyclopedia hardcover, apparently it states that, and I quote, "It is rumored that in the past, Bison's master was the only known person in the world who could manipulate it. It is also said that, before his death at the hands of Bison, he passed the power to only 3 other students, Bison himself being one of them." So here are the possible scenarios of JP and his involvement with the psycho power. JP could be Bison's former teacher who resurrected out of nowhere to take back his position as the main master of the psycho power. Remember, this resurrection phase has happened in various occasions in the Street Fighter universe. For example, Gouken used a technique similar to Gen's and emptied his soul of emotions, which left Gouken in a deep coma after Akuma's Shungokusatsu attack. Everybody believed he was dead, then managed to resurrect after 2 years. It could be possible that Bison thought he was dead now, and JP rose from the depths of his power, and after all these years, wants to dominate the world. This is considering the fact that Bison can't die, and if he will make an appearance in Street Fighter 6. Another scenario could be that JP was one of the other 2 students that was taught by Bison's former master, that somehow since Bison is apparently gone, he wants to take the chance and pick up the remains of the foremost Shadaloo and rise again, but this time with a stronger and powerful wielder of the psycho power, to be the forefront of the terrorist organization. Remember, Bison may have apparently died, but he left thousands of bases, hidden laboratories, and recipients in different parts of the world, so it's easy for someone to just come along and build something from it. This is a very early idea of what this amazing new villain could be. The road fits well with his persona, so if indeed JP is the new Street Fighter 6 villain, it is a great choice for the game. JP gives us some Rugal Bernstein vibes. Hopefully he is not as difficult to beat. These are our theories. Who do you think JP actually is? Let us know in the comments section down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on new theories and info. Thank you for watching. This has been your Street Fighter host. Welcome to the center stage.
Discord server. There you can talk with us, chat about current events going on in Street Fighter, information, theories, and lore. We'll leave the link in the description box below. We want to thank everyone for tuning in and becoming part of this Street Fighter community. We want to thank you for your positive comments towards our channel, because it only habilitates us to grow even more. From the Street Fighterverse crew, we thank you.